In addition to class syntax, I'm also going to be using a relatively new feature of JavaScript called arrow functions. And so let me just give you a brief rundown of how arrow functions work. So as you know, you can write an anonymous function in JavaScript like so. There. So there's a function that adds two numbers, and it's anonymous. So if I want to actually attach it to a function name, I can do something like const add two numbers equals that anonymous function. And then I call it just like any other function. So add two numbers. Let's do 2 and 3. And then let's add two numbers 3 and 5. And let me comment these out for now. So 2 plus 3 is 5 and 3 plus 5 is 8. Simple and straightforward. JavaScript arrow notation is just a simplification of this part right here. And basically, you get rid of the function keyword and insert an arrow here instead. So const add two numbers arrow is a comma b goes to console.log a plus b equals a plus b. And then you call it the same way as the regular. So let me go ahead and copy these two lines. And this is going to be add two numbers arrow. And same here. So that should produce the same results as this did. And it does. Now, there are some even more concise versions that come up sometimes. So if you're passing in exactly one argument, then you can drop these parentheses here. So here's a function inc value, which only takes one value, a, and then it console.logs a plus 1 equals a plus 1. Now you'll notice that I also dropped these curly brackets, and you can do that when there's exactly one statement in here. If you have two or more statements, you need the curly brackets. But if you only have one, then you don't need the curly brackets. So let's try calling this. Okay, so 5 plus 1 is equal to 6. And let's do one more time. And 4 plus 1 is 5. Okay, so this works fine. One other thing that this does, if you're using this simplified format with just one statement here and no curly brackets, this is assumed to return this value. So this line is actually the same as const inc value 2 is equal to a goes to curly bracket return console.log a comma and so on. Now, the return value from console.log is probably not very interesting to me, so this is maybe not the best example. But let's do one a little different. So let's write a version that returns a value. So here's return a plus 2. A goes to, and then we're going to return a plus 2. And now I'm going to console.log 3 plus 2 equals, and then return a plus 2 of 3. So this is going to return the value 3 plus 2, and that's what will be printed out here. So 3 plus 2 is 5. And then the simplified version without the curly brackets doesn't need the return statement. So that's just going to be const return a plus 3. A goes to a plus 3. And then we'll log that as well. So 3 plus 3 is a plus 3 of 3. Let's make it 4, just so it's a little different. So that should be 7. So 3 plus 2 is 5, 4 plus 3 is 7. So this works fine because there's one statement. If I tried to put two statements here with a semicolon, I'd get an error. So for example, a equals a plus 1, semicolon, a plus 2, that's not going to work. Yeah, so that's a syntax error because a is not defined. This semicolon ends the statement, and there's no place to put another statement in this form. Even if I put a return here, return a plus 2, it's still not going to work. The only way to write this that takes multiple lines here is to use those curly brackets, like so. So this will work. And then I actually lost something here. So that's plus equal a plus equal 1. And then return a plus 2. I ended up with an extra a equals here. Okay. So a goes to curly bracket a plus 1 plus equal 1, and then return a plus 2. And this is calling return a plus 3. So it produces the same results as before. And notice that in this construction with the curly brackets, I need this return if I want to return a value. If I do that, so I just get undefined because I'm not returning anything from here. So those are the forms. If you have exactly one parameter, you can leave out the parens here. If you have exactly one statement, you can leave out the curly brackets and the return. So this is actually just going to add 1, and I get 4 plus 3 is 5. There. So this will work correctly. Okay, and then one other case to be aware of is if I don't have any parameters at all. So, for example, const say hello equals a function that doesn't take any parameters, and so I use parentheses here, but with nothing inside of them. like so. And then to call it, it says hello.